you're going through any phase of the criminal justice system, I know what a crisis that can feel like. And I think it will be helpful for me to introduce you to this concept of the straight A guide through those different phases of the journey, because I went through every phase of the journey, and I always had to be thinking from the very earliest stage, what is it that I want on the other side? And for me, that really began when I was locked inside of a solitary cell where I spent the first year of my term. So when I was in solitary, we didn't have any access to books or really other people. So I didn't know what I was going to face on the other side of the journey. Just like you might not know, what are you going to face on the other side of the journey? If you're just coming into the criminal justice system, now is the time to begin thinking about, I want to visualize the other side of the journey, right? What is the best possible outcome? That's what this module is about. You've got to define success. Now, in the very beginning, when I was arrested, the only thing I wanted to think about was I wanted to get out of prison. But that wasn't really the best frame of thought. It didn't put me in the mindset of saying, how can I advance the ball of getting the result that I want? See, there was nothing I could do that could change the past. I did break the law. I sold cocaine, and authorities had charged me with a crime that could potentially keep me in prison for life. I couldn't change that. Defining success required me to start looking forward and say, what's the best possible outcome? And in my case, I didn't really come to that understanding until after I had made a series of really bad decisions. I went to trial. I put my hand on the Bible and swore to tell the truth. I then lied, and I exposed myself to a really severe sentence. So it was after a jury convicted me and I was facing this sentence that I really learned to think differently. And I attribute that to an officer who brought me some books that really taught me about other people who had gone through struggle, including Frederick Douglass and Socrates and Mandela and Gandhi and Viktor Frankl and so many other people. All of them helped me think differently. Instead of thinking about the challenges that I was going through, I had to think about something that was bigger than my own life and what could I do? Well, what do you have to be thinking about? I don't know. I don't know your life. I don't know anything about your past if you're going through this course. I don't know what kind of crisis you're going through. But I know that if you could see the other side of the journey and you could visualize what's the best possible outcome, you could start articulating a plan or engineering a plan. That's frequently in all of our courses, I frequently talk about being the CEO of your life. It's something I've learned from working with so many people who built really extraordinary businesses. They were the CEO. What is a CEO? He's somebody who has to think about a problem and then not dwell on the problem, but focus on what can I do to make it better? All of us who've gone through the criminal justice system, we have a problem, right? There's a problem. It's a problem with getting stable after you've gone through the journey. There's the problem of having to deal with the complexity of being apart from the people you love and the people who love you. There are problems about how am I going to earn a living when I come back? How am I going to restore my reputation, right? So what you want to do at the very beginning is define success. If you're facing a sentence, you might start thinking about, well, what can I do to mitigate or to create a mitigation strategy that will position me for the best possible outcome? Not maybe my charges going away, but what is the best possible outcome? If you could visualize that, that is what gives you the ammunition you need to start building another strategy. And for me, that strategy had three parts because I had to think about, okay, I know I'm going to get sentenced. I know I'm going to get a minimum of 10 years in prison. I know that I'm going to, I was 23 years old when I came in, so I know at the very earliest I'm going to get out is like I'll be in my 40s. And in reality, I was nearly 50 when I got out of prison. But because I had a strategy of defining success at the very start, I could start building a pathway that would empower me while I was going through this journey. Well, you can do the same. And that is a strategy if you're just starting your sentence. If you're already in prison, like many people who watch Prison Professor programming, they're already in the system. You're getting this programming through our relationship with different agencies, whether it's the Bureau of Prisons, the California Department of Corrections, or any of the other 100 agencies that we work with. If you're sitting in there and you're looking at this, you've got to be thinking, what is it that I want to do? Do I want to control the TV room? Do I want to control who sits where? Do I want to figure out what somebody's paperwork looks like when they come in here? Or do I want to be thinking about success? Now, in my case, I always believe that it's most important to think about success as the best possible outcome, just as if you were going to build a great business. You've got a problem, you want to build a solution, and in order to build that solution, you need a plan. I'm encouraging everybody who works through any of Prison Professor's program to create your plan. The Straight A Guide is just a framework for building that plan. Maybe you're already on the other side of your journey, and you have to be thinking about, how am I going to build a career? Well, every decision you make is going to have an influence on whether you become successful as you define it. For example, you might say, I'm going to take a job, or I'm going to go to school to get a degree for some type of discipline that it might not provide much of an income stream. And it might not make sense to get a college degree. It may make more sense to invest in yourself, to learn how to write better, to communicate better, to do better math skills, so that you could develop skills without incurring tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars in student loan debt, right? Before you architect your plan, it's incumbent upon you to define success, regardless of where you are, whether you're facing a complication with the criminal justice system, whether you're already in the prison system and you want to start engineering a pathway that gets you the highest level of liberty at the soonest possible time, whether you are on the other side and you've already completed your prison system, but you've got to deal with the complexities of supervised release and getting credit and getting established in the world. All of these are complexities. This course, the Straight A Guide, is going to give you a very specific task in lesson 1. Define success. Figure out what it is you want. And if you could figure out what it is you want, you could start drilling down and saying, well, if I architect this plan and I carry it through, what is going to be the outcome? I have to do that all the time as somebody who not only wants to make a big impact in society by changing the prison system so that we incarcerate fewer people, or so that more people have a pathway to work toward earning freedom through merit, or so that I'm building relationships with employers and we're building a bridge for people who come out to transition into society with their dignity intact and with opportunities to rejoin the labor market, right? All of this, for me, requires me to define success. All of the work that I do on Prison Professors is designed to give this information away so that more people are thinking earlier on in the journey, how do I define success? And I will assure you that it's never too early and never too late to start. The earlier you start, the better. I wish that I had gotten this information before I ever came into the criminal justice system, but I didn't. I didn't learn this until Officer Wilson brought me books about Frederick Douglass, Socrates, Nelson Mandela, Viktor Frankl, Gandhi, so many others that influenced and changed the way that I think. And once I was able to change the way that I think, I could stop really dwelling on the difficulties or the complexities of my life and start focusing on what is the best possible outcome. And in the next module on goals, I'm going to tell you how I did that and why. But the real takeaway is, what are you doing? What is success in your life, given the circumstances that you're in right now? Whether it's a financial reversal you're dealing with, whether it's overcoming substance abuse challenges, whether you're in the criminal justice system and you're thinking about how do you want to emerge. Every decision you make, starting right now, is going to have a direct influence on what you become. So in the next module on goals, I'm going to get into that a little bit deeper. Thanks so much for being a part of our community.